Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Huh? So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 7th and 8th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry Silverline Comics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for Silverline Comics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Creating beyond calculation, beyond politics, and beyond the big two. Welcome, Silverliners, to the wonderful world of Wednesday Wham. I'm your host, Dean Zachary. I am joined tonight by a good classic core crew, minus one, I should say. Barbara Kailberg, the Empress of Inks. We have Rob Davis, the Paragon of Pencils. We have one of the Wizards of Wordplay, Rory Boyle, whose compatriot is MIA. We will scold him accordingly when he returns.
Well, we should.
And the long-awaited return of Aaron the Contrarian Humphreys, sometimes known as the Spear Skeptic. Welcome back, Aaron. Good to have you, man.
Yep. Hopefully I'll make this more of a regular thing.
Yeah, I hope so.
Yeah, with my new job schedule, I don't think Tuesday's going to work, but Wednesday works.
Awesome. Good thing.
Yeah.
We are continuing our discussion tonight about comic art styles. We've covered it in two previous broadcasts, and this is part 3 by popular demand. We made it all the way through the various ages of comic art styles, and we started with the Golden Age from 1938 to 1956, and followed by the Silver Age from 1956 to some say around 1973. And then, of course, the Bronze Age, 73 to about 87. And then from 87 till the modern era is what it's called now, 87 to the present day. Those are the broad categories as some comic scholars have them set up on the internet. So I wanted to keep it as brief as possible discussing those time periods. But what we're going to do is just start out with the 2000s and bring ourselves up to 2022 and talk about how the styles evolved. As we had said before, the Golden Age was more iconic cartoons with broader subjects of, good guys, bad guys, and they wear strongman underwear and they fight. And, that's about it, with varying degrees of complexity. And then the Silver Age got a little bit more interesting. Then moving forward to, near the end of the Silver Age, we get Spider-Man, and the superheroes with emotional issues and problems begin to be more apparent. And then, of course, we enter into the Bronze Age, where it's just really about social issues more so, and some horror and fantasy stuff starts to arise then. And now, after the modern era, which arguably with The Dark Knight Returns and Watchmen and so on, we get into some really deeper, darker, more adult themes of, what does it even mean to be a superhero? Is that even a good thing from the perspective of the rest of us? And how does it affect society? Blah, blah, blah. So that brings us to the 90s, which some argue was characterized more by guns and well-endowed ladies with lots of claws and pouches, which who can argue with that? It was a very odd time, but that's the time I really got into doing comics.
The 90s were an odd time.
Yeah,
they were. It was almost kind of like the teenagers got a hold of comics and let's just like all the high school, like all the high school drawings you made as friends with guys with guns and blowing stuff up, and now we get to go do this. And
I inked as fast as I could all during the 90s. I did a minimum 2 issues a month. And you were just trying to get the 90s over with as fast as possible.
You were pushing through.
The 90s were very, very good to me.
Good. I will say, the one thing that didn't translate in the 90s for comics is the comics didn't have the same terrible color scheme we had in the 90s with turquoise and yellow and purple jackets. That wasn't in the comics.
I know. It was funny because they actually had okay coloring. Like in the 80s, you look at the 80s, and then the coloring in the 90s got so garish and bright and mismatched, and it was the introduction of the computer coloring, which I'm like
should have made it better, but it was worse.
You would think you have all the colors of the gamut now, and you pick all the wrong ones. It was kind of like okay.
So, a lot of it was trial and error with a lot of error. I wonder what this will look like in print. Whoa,
Before we get too much deeper into this, I want to say we've got a handful of Silverliners down in Florida that we want to make. Yes. We would like to have them stay safe today, and anybody else who usually listens in that might not be getting this today because they don't have any power. Stay safe down there, and everybody be careful.
Yep, you guys be careful, and any Silverliners down there who want to do a check-in to tell us you're okay. Tommy, especially you're famous for checking in with us. Please feel free to do so. We'd love to hear from you.
Roland, John, Jose,
Brent.
Brent. Yeah, we got about half. Yeah, Haley. We got at least half a dozen of our Silverliners down there in the path of the storm.
We're thinking about you. So check in with us and let us know how things are going. Give us updates as you can. Hopefully, we all get through this together. We're with you. So let's continue, Barb, as our visual producer here, as far as screen sharing goes. Let's start with something interesting from the 2000s, and
we're going to start into the aughts here, which to me was just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah, it really was kind of an interesting.
That was wasn't that kind of the crash? Was a crash the comics in the early 2000s?
Yeah, it was
late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was like a drastic crash. That was
the huge crash.
Death of the spectator market.
Right. Yeah. I lasted till 2000, and then I had to actually go out and make money elsewhere besides comics.
I got pushed out a little earlier than you did, but or actually, it's just the bottom fell out.
It really did. And I all scrambling to do other things, and as Barb noted, most of us had to go get real quote unquote day jobs and
jobs.
For a steady income and insurance and benefits and all that, because
pensions, so you can get to where I am and do this again.
Get to where you and Barb are.
That's where I live
for you. Now here we go with this looks really cool. Tell us a little bit about who this is, Barb. You can read it better than I can.
This is a 2000 cover from Mike Deodato.
Okay.
Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yes.
Yeah,
that is I would say comic surrealism, again based in realism with a heightened comic flair. We're still, interesting silhouette, use of just a silhouette there.
White space. It definitely focuses in on her because she's the only thing on there against all that stark white.
Yeah.
How did she get her hair to do that?
Yeah, exactly. Electrically somehow.
Called pencil. Called pencil.
Could that shoe, if you flipped her shoe like right way around, would that wouldn't actually work, would it?
Well, you mean to stand
as a high heel?
Yeah. I don't know if she could actually walk in those. That's really interesting. You're seeing a little bit of holdover from the 90s, obviously, with a little bit of the cheesecake feel.
Mm-hmm.
Thin waist.
Yeah.
Cheesecake, love that word.
Yeah, the words, I can read the type. I don't really know what the book is about. Obviously, though, this may not be, it's not a number 1, is it, Barb? It's like a number 3.
It's a number 3. Okay. It's from Image.
Okay.
It's called Jade Warriors.
Okay, so it doesn't really tell us a whole lot. Not big on storytelling here. This could even be an interior panel of some sort. So A+ for rendering. Deodato's an excellent artist, but conceptually, I'm not really sure what to take away from the cover. Barb, what about you? What do you think? Does this thing communicate anything to you?
Story-wise, no. It's eye-catching simply because it's very stark in its simplicity.
Yeah.
And obviously, he's going for, the cheesecake, which is and the name Mike Deodato is going to instantly create a fanboy response. So
sure.
What I'd be interested in Rob's take.
Yeah, Rob, what about your take, my friend?
I like Mike Deodato's work. He has a range of styles that he can do. And this is his early, more imagey, the very thin waists and the unrealistic anatomy.
Well, he's
very malleable in his style, but he usually has really good storytelling. So I don't know, but since this is like a third issue, he's really just the fans that know this probably already know what this is about.
Yeah,
this is just and so it's the cheesecake to bring in everybody else.
Yep,
but
I agree.
But the starkness of it, I like the design of it. It just doesn't tell you what the book is about. But I like his styles, that the different styles that he uses, and all that motion in the hair is just really interesting, I think.
Yeah. What about you, Aaron? Any commentary?
Does your familiar have anything to say?
This is my familiar. The cat. Bailey, do you have anything to say about it?
Right meow.
It doesn't. The windows. I'm as dumb as this. Like, I think for placement, the window, I think, needs to be pushed away from the text up there.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like two disparate items put on a page. Like you have a window, and then you have her, and then you have some object in front of her knees, which looks like a piece of paper.
Yep, it looks like it's just a piece of paper with Mike's signature.
Oh, okay, I get it. That's his signature. Beyond that, I mean,
it doesn't say
she's
much.
In prison somehow. I assume that's
You got a little bondage, some bars, some TNA,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's pure fan service.
Yeah.
Yep,
Absolutely.
Yep.
Rory, before we move on, any final comments?
Yeah. I like the minimalist white background. I always think that's classy looking because it makes everything else stand out.
Yes.
The problem is there's so few things to look at. And your eyeball only follows one pattern, like an S turn from Jade Warrior to the window to her to the note.
Yeah.
So you're forced within this box. Obviously, you land more on her, and the more you look at it, the more outlandish it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So up front, it's like, ooh, wow, this is really interesting. And the more you look at it, you're like, eh.
Yeah, it just doesn't. It doesn't tell us a whole lot. But again, as we've said, fan service for the casual comic fan would pick it up for the fan service elements, and then the loyal fan to either Deodato or the title would pick it up just because they're already there. They already know what the story is. So,
all right. Next one is one of your favorites, Dean.
Yes. Yes. One of my favorite artists.
2002.
Oh yeah. This was the relaunch. Is this the cover to the? It looks like maybe the collection.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Poster.
Obviously, this is Jim Lee for anybody who's questioning that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lee really made a name for himself starting in the late 80s on Uncanny X-Men, which he gained a tremendous following. He created my favorite comic book of all time, Uncanny X-Men number 271, which is from 1990. And which, just as a side note, I mentioned this to Barb off camera one day. One of the pages, page 4 from Uncanny X-Men number 274, recently sold at auction for $360,000. That is just a black and white piece of art. So
what were they fighting in that issue? What was that issue?
That was the magistrates. They're fighting the magistrates down in Genosha. Cameron Hodge was the leader, and of course it was part of the extinction agenda, and they were trying to take them out. And it was Wolverine with Jubilee as his sidekick, and
I think I remember that one.
Psylocke as well. And we also it goes through extinction agenda, and then leads into the story where Professor Xavier returns from the Shi'ar Empire, married to the Shi'ar
Empress
Lilandra. Yes.
I was impressed to see when one of my pages sold at some auction online for like $3,500. I can't even imagine.
Awesome.
$380,000.
$360,000. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. At any rate, Jim is ubiquitous. He's everywhere. We know him. We've all seen his work. What he's known for, in my opinion, was taking that surrealism of, say, Neil Adams and/or John Byrne, and elevating it with this electrified line work that really gave us action with line, which made me fall in love with the medium itself, and I became sort of a student of his work and still learn from it today. Follow all of it. I try to get all of the black and white versions, whether it's pencils or inks in reprints and so on, just to study how he solves problems, because he's a hatching guy and I'm a hatching guy. Yeah, big fan. So I can't really be too objective. I've always loved his design, his layout. I like his Magneto helmet that everyone seems to love and carry through even till today. And he's even doing my favorite costume for Wolvie there. So
the brown one was my favorite one too.
Yeah.
We've got the team, the team with a mashup of the big head, big head layout with a team mashup. So we've got two different components here of our favorite covers, a team cover and a big head cover.
And the floating head.
The thing is I'm trying to think, was this a cover? And just because, wouldn't the logo just cover up Magneto's head?
Yeah, this might have been a poster. This might have been a poster. I don't know. I saw it online and I loved it.
It looks really familiar. I honestly, I almost think, was this from his trading cards? I don't think so.
It's a poster, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's got too many details to be a
cover.
Wait! Alert! We got storm alert! Let's see. Tommy, welcome, my friend. How are y'all doing? How are you hanging out?
Everything is rainy.
Okay. Still
everything
got power.
is. Oh yeah. No, it's not even very here in Orlando. It's not wind. It's every now and again you'll get a gust, but right now it's just kind of just raining. There's not.
Yeah, you guys are supposed to get nailed about 8 or 9 tonight. I think is local time. So.
Yeah, but they could, once it gets this far, it's supposed to even drop down to like a 1 or just a tropical storm when it gets this far.
So it shouldn't be as bad. Yeah,
I hope
so.
I'm hoping so. We'll find out. But I don't know. Here you go. We can look out in the.
Let's look out.
Y'all see?
It's real dark, but.
Yeah, I know. There you can see shit. I meant stuff. See stuff.
Sorry, number though. We're good.
We're good. I'm glad you're doing okay, man. Just wanted to.
Yeah.
In with the Florida peeps.
That's far.
About, styles and we're just talking about Jim Lee, and Barb was about to tell us what she liked about the poster we're looking at. Barb, what do you like about his work?
I think Jim, as far as the 90s style goes, he was my favorite of the image type of look. He knew the basics of art before he went into this style, you know. So that's important to me, is that know real art before you stylize it or caricaturize
Before you
it.
can break the rules, you need to know the rules.
Know the rules, exactly.
It's a good call.
You can't fully appreciate it unless you know the rules.
Right.
That's
He
right.
also he also was a master of underlighting.
Yeah. Very good call.
Which I always liked. This particular, is that wind I'm hearing there?
It is wind.
Yeah, I probably should get off. But I just wanted to say I love you guys. I'll let y'all know how it's going.
Love you
All
too,
right,
Tommy.
take care.
Stay
Yourself,
safe.
brother.
Hey, Tommy.
Batten down the hatches, man.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Well,
Tommy's always entertaining.
That's
I'm just
better,
glad he's
yeah.
okay.
BJ just messaged me and said she lost electricity.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah. I'll keep. All right. I'm keeping an eye on them with messaging too, so we can report that as it comes in. You were saying that you got to know the rules before you break them. You got to know the real anatomy before you can successfully exaggerate it.
That's
it helps.
right. And Jim knows his rules.
Yes,
the rules of art.
Yep.
So I've always liked his work, and then this is the Rob Davis rules of warm background, cool foreground here.
Oh yeah,
which I like to break.
Yeah,
you've got an effect now, Rob. You've made it. You have an effect. The warm background, cool.
At least here.
Did you have any commentary, Rob, beyond what you said earlier?
I am not a big fan of all the scratchy. I gotta blow this up so I can see it a little better. All that hatching and stuff. I've never been a real big fan of that because to me it obscures rather than helps.
Okay.
But it works over Jim Lee's stuff because there's actual form underneath.
Yes.
And it actually helps it actually works with the form. Whereas with like Rob Liefeld's stuff, there's no real anatomy there at all. It's just stuff stuck together. Whereas Jim's stuff there's some form underneath it. There's some that he knows what he's doing. And but all that hatching is just that's too much for me. There's some is okay, but during this time period they did it way too much. I think it's eased off since then, which I much appreciate. I wasn't reading very many comics at this point. I was concentrating on my real life career at that time, so I wasn't studying this stuff. And I would just see this and I would go, well, okay, if that's what they want to do, but of the people that were doing it during that time period, Jim Lee at least had some real storytelling ability and knew how to draw a cool scene. So absolutely. I like it. It's not. This isn't my favorite period of comics, but this is one of the better examples from that time period.
Yeah.
What about you, Aaron? Comments beyond what's
again? I always liked Jim Lee when he first started. One of my things with some of the image guys, Mark Silverstrew is this way too. They draw the same thing so much that they stiffen up.
Yeah.
And this is kind of going into Jim's a little more where he's a little more like the root pose. He has like the basic pose. But like when he first started, there was a lot of more solid blacks. They didn't have the hatching, and I think it was more three-dimensional. I actually think the hatching flattens his work here.
Yes.
And the only reason I say that is because a lot of the hatching lines are not following the contours of the shapes.
Yes.
Like if you look at the thigh of Wolverine, those lines, instead of bending around the shape to heighten it, are just straight. And I think that flattens a lot of his stuff.
Yeah.
So it could have just been speed or the look, but I think if you're going to hatch, it should be to accentuate the three-dimensional shape.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yep. What about Rory? Any comments on Jim Lee's work?
This is probably one of my favorite ones so far. I'm actually a fan of the hatching. I like what it does.
Yeah.
Awesome cover, and I think Cyclops is just wearing briefs and body paint.
Yeah.
If you had a shirt that tight to see every one of those obliques.
Yeah, I've never seen an actual Lycra costume that shows every single muscle in a person's body.
I'm gonna get some Under Armour and airbrush it with abs.
Airbrush it. Yeah.
All right, ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
David Lloyd. This is 2005.
Okay.
V for Vendetta. I love this cover just because it's not only is it so recognizable. I mean, who doesn't recognize the Guy Fawkes face, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I don't know, the red and the green just really make it pop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of strong graphic covers as well, and this qualifies as a close-up face cover that works. You still get dimension. It fills the page, but because of the rendering and the coloring, you still get dimension. You still get expression, where the mask itself could have ended up being static, but it seems alive. And definitely he is communicating the expression that mask is there to convey. And the layout is beautiful. Even the brim going under that V is beautiful. It brings your eye right in, and then right to the eye, and then down to the face, and then out with vertigo. Beautifully done. Aaron, thoughts, comments?
It's funny. I never got. I mean, I saw the movie. I never got. I am probably the only man on the planet comic fan that just never got Alan Moore. I just never got what the big deal about him was. So I never read a lot of. I mean, I read Watchmen and I read a few.
Sure.
I just think he's incredibly boring.
Okay.
I don't know why. I don't know. I just there's just like I don't know. I mean, I'm sure I lost a ton of fans. I just never. Same thing with Neil Gaiman. I just he never clicked with me. And I tried. I read Stardust, a few of his books. Just never did it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's weird that he has that bright color on the bottom lip.
Okay.
I think
I like that.
It's interesting. It's kind of a focal point. I almost feel like he should put a little on the nose, but I think it works.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works. I mean, I know generally what the story is about.
Sure.
But again, it's kind of like, I mean, I don't have much more to say about it. I mean,
but it's a recognizable face for you, right? I mean, it's you see it everywhere.
Yeah, the guy Fawkes. I mean, if anything, you think of what that hacker group that uses that
Anonymous.
Right.
Yeah, the Anonymous. Yeah. Rob, what about you, my friend? What are your thoughts on this cover?
Well, this harkens back to that Mike Deodato one again. Without knowing what the story is, does this tell you what the story is about? If you don't know who Guy Fawkes is, no, it's not going to tell you anything.
No.
But if you know the Guy Fawkes mask, you got to have some knowledge about what that's all about.
Context
to get this. Yeah, there has to the context. But unfortunately, most people do, and most people did at this time because it was such a hot comic at the time. I never read it. I haven't watched the movie either. So but I have seen artwork from it. This is one of the most gorgeous comic books ever done. It's a beautiful book. And one of these days I need to get the collection and sit down and just devour it and enjoy it. But all I've seen is little bits and pieces of it. But that's a very, very powerful cover.
Yeah.
And it's almost monochrome, but that little touch of red there on the lips and just a little bit on the cheeks really sets it all off. Because you've got red and you've got green, which are complementary colors, and they make when you put them next to each other, they vibrate.
Yeah.
So that's what's going on here. It's just a beautiful piece of work.
Yep.
Really grab. If that's sitting on a comic book stand, that's going to grab you.
Yeah. You're at least going to walk up to it and wonder about it.
What the heck is that?
Read the back, and say, I wonder what this is about. Laurie, what about you, my friend? Comments?
Classic. Love it. One of my all-time faves. And the simplicity of it and the history of it. If you know the history of the contact, it hits you all the more.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know there was green in this cover until it was Barb that brought up the green. Because I'm colorblind, so what I see is
wow, really?
Brownish in the hat. I didn't really see the green tint on the face. I saw more just like a muted white gray, and the bottom lip looks more like purple to me.
Mm-hmm. And it still works, right?
Still works,
It still works,
and like pink circles in the cheeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it all still works.
Yeah, solid.
But now I see like a pale green.
Oh, cool.
Oh, good.
All right, we are going to go from one face to another.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And this is just a two-color. Again, this is a two-color cover: red and black, with some negative space in there. This is 2011. This is by Jock.
I've heard of that name.
Yeah, he's a UK artist. That's his nom de plume, his pen name. I got to look up who he is, but he's known for this sort of Bill Sienkiewicz, almost esoteric expressionism. It's interesting. It's powerful. Joker is one of those characters where you can interpret him in a personal way. The actual name is Mark Simpson. He's from the UK. He also knows anatomy, so he can do these exaggerations. They're very powerful. Like Batman and the Joker and a lot of the iconic characters, you can kind of go crazy with them, which he did here. There's just a lot of messaging, expressive nature going on. You got the wicked, oversized smile, and are those bats that are?
I was just going to say, I don't know if you guys can see this, but from the lips on up, those are all bats.
Yeah.
Yep. As I zoom in here with my iPad,
yeah.
Wow.
Beautifully done.
And
Very
you don't
powerful.
see that. You don't see that in the thumbnail size. You just see the gray. You think it's just hatching.
Yep. All the black from the lips up is all bats.
That's a very powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you got conceptual along with rendering and graphic and memorable and impact from a distance. So he's covered all his grounds here. He's an excellent commercial artist. He knows how to get your attention.
Yeah, even if you didn't know what the story is, which obviously, with just a face, you're gonna know that you're in for a ride.
Yeah.
So that's gonna make you pick it up right there, because this is just reaches out and this is scary.
Yeah, spooky.
I'm gonna have to pick it up. Yeah.
And you can read it a multitude of ways. Looks like looking at it one way, it looks like he's scared. Looking at it another way, it's just maniacally crazy.
Yeah.
And then how the bats kind of flow away, like he's being pulled back almost.
Yeah, like it's pulling his face back. I see what you're saying. Like, that's what I got it too. That's almost like, because they get smaller, it looks like the face is being pulled like away.
Or is disintegrating into bats.
Yeah.
Right. Or it looks like he could be obsessed with Batman because of the eyes.
Yeah. Well, yes, and making another statement about the interconnected nature of them feeding off each other to survive. In other words, coexistence.
Strangely enough, the only thing that, and I think this cover is great. I almost feel like the Batman Detective Comics logo color should be like a yellow or something. I almost feel the bats kind of like, it's hard for me to read Batman. I can read.
Yeah, I would have reversed it. I would have reversed it out white.
It's a little buried.
Yeah. But I mean, I think most people know Batman, that once you see that you don't really need to have it clear.
Right.
Yeah.
That's just my only thing. But no, I'd almost think this cover would actually work better without the logos and information. I'd be curious to see a blank one without that.
It would be more intense.
I think you almost don't even need it, or if you did, maybe put like I don't know. It's funny because you see images like this, and you sometimes think, well, yeah, he made room for it, but the logo, but yeah, it's a little busy on top, which I think was a point, but I don't know. Do you even need all the information?
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
Artistically, it's brilliant how he came. What made him think of to turn everything into bats on the top?
Yeah.
Very time consuming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was he smoking?
Yeah. It could have been. Now there is something he may have done it by hand, and I'm not going to say he didn't, but he also could have done a stamp. A photo stamp with multiple bats. Get multiple bats, and you just kind of go through, and you can do stamping, or you can do where the computer will make a bunch from at random. So you can do that digitally. And the only reason I'm saying that he could have gone through and done it by hand, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But around the eyes, I would almost say he did a stamp, like a digital stamp, just kept stamping and stuff to get that effect.
On Procreate, you can create brush stamps.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And he just did it around the eyes. Now, maybe he did do it by hand. I'm not want to like diss the artist if he did, but I would do that by stamps, just because the way it is by the eyes, it looks like somebody took the image and just kept stamping it over and over again, so it makes those little white specks. Because it's hard for me to think somebody would go in and just systematically draw little white specks. It looks like those white specks around the eyes are more made by just a multitude of black shapes, and then there's like certain bits of white not covered by it.
Yeah. If you did this all by hand, you'd probably end up looking like that after.
It would probably look a little more organized, maybe. I don't know. But still amazing. I mean, again, I think today's age, I don't think it matters how an artist does it, as long as the result is what they want.
Like I said at the beginning, we're in the age now where you just throw everything against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Very good. Very good.
2012, cool. John Romita.
Wow. That is powerful. We've got, again, two groups against each other. You know, the face-off, Avengers versus X-Men. Again, there's storytelling here, good solid rendering, colors. You know, it's a group shot, so you're going to have that kaleidoscope look, that postage stamp look, where it's all, you know, kind of a train wreck as it goes backwards. But in the foreground, you get enough of the major characters to get what's going on. I don't know if I'd have done quite that many people.
Or
I might have done just the leading characters facing off, and you get the same effect.
I think also with the digital, you're able to put the same amount of detail in the very back characters in the very front, and I think sometimes that makes it a little busy.
Yeah,
it reminds me of a video game versus screen, like a fighting game.
Yeah,
which it could have been the point. Yeah,
it was like Mortal Kombat.
Sure.
Fight.
Let's see.
I would love to see X-Men Avengers as like a Mortal Kombat movie. It's one-on-one.
Yeah. Sweet Laser's giving us a comment here. Will a more reductive, subtracted art style become more popular, or will we continue to value more and more refinement? That's an excellent question.
Refinement. I think it's going to go to refinement. It's going to be more classic art.
I think that's a good point. I think that you're going to see both become prevalent, but here's the difference. I think we cannot underestimate the fact that as every aspect of our lives goes more digital and we can create things more digitally, that's going to place a premium value on things done by hand. And not that will devalue so much the digital side, but there's a value to things that are handmade that always has been. And so the more human element that's connected to the art, I feel, will elevate its value. Now, whether that means that, you know, people who work the traditional analog way are going to be looked at differently than people who don't, I don't know. I just think that human nature values the by hand aspect of things. You know, you see something created, just like Aaron just spoke earlier about the stamp versus by hand. Now, whether we admit it or not, there's a level of admiration that's a little higher if he did it all by hand.
Yeah.
So, as much as we try to say, well, it's all valid, there is this little bit of prejudice there where, gosh, if he did all that by hand, I'm hugely a fan and admire his effort and so on. So I think that by hand thing is going to be a big, that eat they cat food. The future holds suffering and consumption of cat food. That may be true.
Aaron, is that your cat?
that's
Sorry, guys.
That's Aaron.
You got to hold the computer.
Barb, what do you think about this particular cover?
It is very busy. They have he mitigated that somewhat by putting the white background in and then doing the cutouts up here around the edges.
Yeah.
To simplify it. Yeah. And it also the design at the top leads to the two different parties. You've got the sharp designs in the writing up there that points to each side. So
yes,
I think that helps as well.
Yeah, good graphic layout. It's just so darn busy. That's my
very busy.
Yeah. Well, it works if you. I'm going to go. I take it and I'll blow it up in line. It works in your hand, the comic book. But as a thumbnail, if you're looking for it on Amazon and you see the little 2-inch thumbnail, it's you're done. What is that? It's just and the coloring doesn't really help here either. But it's gorgeous if you've got it in your hand. If you see it on a stand in a comic shop, but as a thumbnail on a screen, it does not work. It's just too busy. All I really see is Cap and Cyclops.
Yeah,
the rest of it's a muddy mess. But if you had it in your hand, the actual comic, it's great. It's beautiful. Yeah, it works. It just doesn't work as thumbnail size.
Rory, what about you? Thoughts, observations?
I know it's supposed to have depth going to the back, but I just see it's very flat. And something about the colors that don't pop, like there's too much purple or something going on. Too many colors blur together, so your eyes don't know what to do. So it just becomes this purple.
Maybe if they had played a little bit with the intensity, making the forward figures a little more intense and saturated than the receding figures, that may have helped clarify some of it. But well drawn, obviously.
Well, it's amazing because I can't do it, so that's that's my bar for good art.
No,
and the anatomy is spot on.
It's spot on, and it does tell us the story, which I always appreciate. If you're going to do a single image graphic cover, cool. But if you're going to do multiple images, it's always cooler if it tells us a story about what's going on in the book. So this is like Civil War. So, but we can move on.
That's what it reminded me of.
Yeah. Cool.
This is 2015.
Yeah.
Cliff Chang.
Okay.
I think that's how we pronounce his last name.
Mm-hmm.
Very simple.
Complementary
colors. Split complementary. They kept it simple and elegant design, and it tells a story. He's shrinking, obviously.
Yeah.
I think it's getting bigger.
Or getting bigger.
Or getting bigger.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that, can you see my pointer on here?
Yeah.
Yes.
I find it interesting that Marvel's over here in this corner and the title is here, and this is unusual for me to see nothing up here.
Yeah.
It's a little different.
It's more grabbing though, because you're so
and
used
they,
to that.
and they put the barcode down here in this corner.
It almost makes you think it was a mistake because you expect the barcode in the Marvel to be on the left-hand side.
That's right.
And then you think, well, they were wiser than we thought, those sly foxes. They put it over there just to make us look at it longer, which it does make you kind of go, what's going on here? Was this a mistake, or did they intend this? I like the placement of the Ant-Man title. I like that logo type. I think it's primarily they wanted the larger figure in the background, that helmet, to be quite visible above the Ant-Man logo, and it works. It's really cool.
Yeah, you've got some negative space going on there.
Mm-hmm.
And the color holds.
Color holds. Good saturation on the main figure. Aaron, thoughts, observations?
I like it. Again, I know this sounds strange, but I almost think what's confusing, that whether he's shrinking or growing, is the figure where he's got his arms outstretched.
Ah.
Because it looks like he's looking up, and it should be almost kind of like he should be a little more hunched over, maybe. Like he's looking down, and then that one pose he's looking up. So you're like, well, was he supposed to going down or up? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like if he's shrinking, he should put the helmet on and be looking down the whole way, instead of looking down, looking up.
I think that's the point here. Is that
maybe he's not supposed to know.
Yeah. I think the ambiguity. The ambiguity is intentional here. Sweet Laser says, "Love this classic cartooning. Like
Mike
character
Howard.
design Sing reminds me of Toth or someone like Mike Howard." Yeah, it absolutely does.
Yeah, good point.
Right?
Good point.
Good point. Yeah, the graphic.
I like it overall. I mean, I like it. Again, I have to agree that Ant-Man logo, where Barbara said that is, it almost is a little distracting. I'd be curious to see it without the logo.
What's interesting also to me is that it steps away from the stereotypical DC Marvel cover that we see nowadays and goes back to a much more simplistic style.
Yeah. That's a good way to stand out.
Something like Sienkiewicz. I can
Sienkiewicz. Yeah,
Sienkiewicz would do something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very pop art, graphic art.
Yeah.
Rory, before we move on, anything?
So he's in the very bottom when he's the smallest. He's running at you, so I would think you'd expect him to get bigger as he comes toward you. The outline coloration, the blue, is in relation to that like sunset Florida background scene. It's like Ant-Man Goes to Miami. and that silhouette, it just reminds me of like Johnny Quest cartoons or something where you just go the silhouette of somebody.
Yeah,
sure.
So then that just takes you back even more. So you can tell me, obviously this is a more modern one, it's 2015, but makes you feel like you're back in the day.
Yeah, it is sort of retro 60s. I'm feeling that.
Nostalgic.
Retro, retro.
Retro nostalgic, yeah.
Like it. Good one.
Next one is probably my favorite of this batch.
Okay.
Oh,
so cool.
You know, it's
2017, Wando.
I just saw this like on Facebook. Did you guys post this on Facebook?
No,
I didn't.
Weird. I've never seen this cover before, but until I saw it on Facebook, and now I see it again. There we go.
This is spooky as
synchronicity.
It's emotionally powerful, spooky. There's a looming, sense of dread or doom.
Monochromatic.
It's very powerfully done. The lighting is subdued intentionally. I mean, it just tells, to quote Ray Bradbury, it just says something wicked this way comes. Very much so.
Strangely enough, I think it would have been cooler to see some of the tentacles in the foreground, like coming up and like having one of them in the corner, like bending down, or like the bit more foreground,
like grabbing you,
like it's coming at you. And also, the figure. I mean, I like the image, but the figure and the tentacles seem like two separate things a little bit. Like maybe having one of the tentacles kind of like come around this cape to show that he's made of it, because I can't figure out like does he have tentacles or is he being lifted up by tentacles?
Yeah.
That's a good. Yeah.
To me, that figure looks like it's the bow of like a Viking longboat.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking. And that's a good point, because is that a cape, or maybe that is a boat?
It's a boat.
It's a boat.
It's dark arc.
Because it's called dark art.
Oh, that's a dark art. Okay.
I thought it was a goat man in a big cloak.
No,
that could be too.
That's what I thought.
A graphic observation here. We lose a little bit of the word dark. I would have done a white stroke around those letters, just so it would still remain dark, period. But it's just harder to read. Now, again, I'm seeing a thumbnail rather than a full size, but sometimes that helps. It's a boat.
That's a guy in a cloak.
I know. Isn't that cool how that works?
And a big cape.
Yeah. See, I'm seeing the
if it is a boat, I'm sorry. I mean,
longboat. You know.
Yeah.
I know what he's saying now, but I don't know. I mean, if it is a boat,
it looks like it could be a person
water,
because
dude, and it's called Dark Ark, and there's water. So I'm kind of thinking leaning.
But I mean, Ark
boat.
doesn't necessarily mean boat. I mean, Ark of the Covenant.
Sure.
Noah's Ark was a boat.
Yeah,
that's true.
Well, there's so much detail in that face. I mean, your mind makes you want to say, "Oh, that's the character."
Yeah.
Because if it was really like the figurehead on a ship,
I
wouldn't have
see
that
a
much
little
detail.
bit now of the lines on the side looking at the boat. Maybe it's just your thought. Yeah, I
thought
thought
it
was.
If we had a central spine for the prow, where it
Mhm.
literally went under that face, and went all the way to the water, and you had that little V-shaped divot of water spraying.
Yeah.
You would read it more as boat. But again, sometimes artists intend ambiguity to make it more interesting and more difficult, like MC Escher did. That was his thing.
Did you know that he did a lot of his stuff in wood carvings?
Yeah, isn't that amazing?
Yeah, I watched a video of that where he would do a lot of it carve out of wood, like the snake one. He'd stamp it. It's huge. I was like, that's crazy. I thought he drew that. Like, no, a lot of it was wood and stuff. Yeah,
think,
like,
think what he could do with if he'd had Photoshop.
Yeah.
Oh,
think
good
what
God.
Blow our minds.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Just crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Good one, Barb.
All right. Before we get to our favorite in-house artist, we got one last one from 2021. This is Dennis Cowan.
Oh, wow.
I love his stuff.
That is powerful. The
I
radiating
love his stuff.
lines coming out from the central.
This is all movement.
It's all
a
movement.
knife something. Strangely enough, I like it. The way he's like pulling the cords.
Yeah.
Shouldn't his hand be going the other way to like pull it? I mean, maybe. Do you see what I'm saying? Like if you pull this way, you usually want to push instead of pull.
Right.
But that's a minor thing. Other than that, because for a minute there, I'm like, is he? But
it takes you a minute. Yeah.
It almost looks like he's because instead of like, because you would think like, is he trying to get the cords out of his way, or is he pulling the cords in front of him?
Looks like he's pulling to cut him. Look what's in his.
Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Then that might have actually made more sense if the blade was just underneath the cord, like he's about to cut.
Right.
Okay.
So it takes a little bit to figure out what's going on. But what got me just first looking at it was how powerful it is, and all these cords are literally. You got that radial focus to the center, which is really strong. I would have liked to see him lit a little bit more. Because it looks like the lighting is kind of flat, and that's not necessarily his deal. But I really would have loved to have seen that character lit. Maybe one of the cords was sparking or something. That would have been cool.
That would have been cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Barb, observations, comments?
I like the subdued colors, and then you get these splashes of red that makes it pop.
Yep.
So, and also the red highlights his face, which is a very dramatic face.
Oh yeah.
And like you said, it's all radial, where it's all coming into the center, and the center is his face.
Yeah. You keep going back to it, and it's almost so powerful that even like Aaron missed that he was holding a scythe.
It took me a minute to figure that out. Yeah.
Rory, observations, commentary.
For me, I feel like there's a lot going on, which is almost inundated with detail. So you have to slow down and look at it all. The red for me doesn't pop as much. I mean, I see it there, and I see two different shades, like the ones in the cannons and the ones on his forearms and face. But for me, it doesn't pop. I just see more of that like gunmetal brass color.
Right.
So strangely enough, talking about logos again, do you guys think this logo should be bigger than just a little sentence on the top?
Yeah, I do. Because I don't even know what the title of the book is.
It's Hardware, Season 1.
Okay.
But you're right, it is really tiny.
It's just tiny.
I don't know if that's something new they did, or could you think like, because it looks like he left space for a logo. This is the actual one cover. It looks like he actually left space for the logo on top. and they didn't put it there.
I'm thinking it's a variant.
Maybe that's what it is.
We've got a little DC logo here, and then the milestone logo over here.
Right.
But you think they'd have hardware just huge right there.
You would think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know.
Did anybody read this one?
Do what?
No,
I haven't read this one.
No, I haven't.
No. I haven't read superhero comics since the mid '90s, maybe late '90s.
Gone through our covers, but we do have a couple of pages from our own Rob Davis that I really like.
Yes.
These are actually spot illustrations.
I love these.
Is there anybody on the face of the earth who doesn't know who this is?
Exactly.
He's got elf ears, right?
It's exactly Sherlock Holmes.
That's Tolkien writing Lord of the Rings, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's that too, yeah.
Talk to us a little, Rob, about like what was this for, so we can have a little context, and then what references you used and your favorite Sherlock Holmes. I'd love to hear all those.
Well, I'll work backwards a little bit. I'll start with that's actually based on Jeremy Brett as Sherlock Holmes. He's my favorite Sherlock Holmes.
Good choice.
This is for Airship 27, the company that I'm partnered with Ron Fortier, and we publish new pulp books. One of our most popular books it is Sherlock Holmes. We have writers that are telling new stories that are just like Arthur Conan Doyle would tell them. There's no monsters, no Martians, no weird stuff. It's straight ahead storytelling that's told by Watson. And
Sherlock Holmes.
And I've
is
done
that public domain?
The illustration trial.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is.
Okay, I didn't know that. I'm sorry.
Until recently, everything up till 1923, because Doyle was still writing Holmes up into the 20s.
Okay.
And some of those stories are still in public domain now, but I think they're supposed to drop out next year or the year after. So everything will be public domain at that point. So yeah, so we've been doing new stories because it is public domain. But I've done all the interior illustrations for all these. And this was for a special issue that we did. It was the 12th volume of the series, and I did them all in this shaded pencil style. Before that, I did them in pen and ink. But for this one, I found a lot of photo reference. I used Photoshop a lot, my light table, and then I would go in and shade and do the little detail work. So those are based off photographs.
Yeah.
Very detailed.
I like it. Did you ever play with? Because I just got to ask. Did you ever play with the smoke coming out of his pipe because of the negative space?
Yes.
I kind of thought, because I was going to say that there could be smoke, but I bet your money, since it's negative space, you tried that multiple times and it didn't work.
Yeah, I just couldn't get it to feel right with the rest of the image. So I never could get it to work right, so I just erased it out and left it as it is. Yeah,
I think it's fine. Yeah.
No, I like your composition a lot, Rob. That because your eye on that page just moves exactly where it should. You know.
Strangely enough, did you ever think, because you have the silhouette there, and I don't know, maybe there's more to it. Did you ever think about doing the silhouette instead of such a stark black, like cross-hatching in pencil? Like cross-hatch her whole thing?
I did it originally in cross-hatch pencil.
That's what I kind of thought.
It did not stand out.
It didn't stand out. Okay,
So I inked it, and then it popped.
Popped, okay. That's what I was wondering, if it just, the shape just got lost. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense.
Yeah, it got lost in the cross-hatching. And I could have drawn in with a lot of detail as well. I think originally what I had was I had a picture of him facing me, and so when I did the reference, I turned, I did it. I was going to do him as a dark shade, but using the same outline, and it just the cross hatching just didn't work. So I tried inking it, and man, that did it. It popped.
Yeah. It's the funny thing is like, it seems a little jarring, but it does pop. So I mean, sometimes in art you take what you can get.
And your eye is drawn that way.
Your eyes drawn to it.
Straight to it,
and it brings you right down to what they're looking at. They're looking down on something. So I think if I remember right, it's a dead body that they're looking at. If I remember right, I can't remember exactly what's going on there, but I believe they're examining a dead body.
Now, another question contextually here. I know that you didn't use the Deerstalker cap, and I know why. But were you told that you're not going there, or did you yourself go, I'm not going there?
That's me. And I have done it occasionally where it's appropriate, where they're saying the only time that Deerstalker is actually appropriate is if they're out in the countryside.
Outside, I was going to say.
Because if they're in the city, they're going to wear either a bowler, a Hamburg, or a stovepipe.
Sure.
Top hat. They're not going to. He's not going to wear the Deerstalker in town.
Kudos to you for continuity. Thank you.
That's very.
Thank you for having the forethought.
I'd also love to see an illustration. You may have done one already like this, where you show Holmes actually playing the violin. I think that would be very cool.
I have one that I probably should have included in this, where he's in front of the window in their study, and he's a silhouette against their window. Which and in that one, the smoke does curl up from his pipe.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, these are fun. These are a lot of fun.
Yeah, really nice work. Really
Thank you.
So now that we've gone through the 2000s, we're up to date, and it's time to start talking about where do we go artistically from here. I've thought about this for a while, and I thought, at this point, because of the internet, because of digital art, because of the prevalence of so many international artists able to communicate their imagery across the marketplace from anywhere, from Tibet, if they want to, I think we're going to see a renaissance of sorts of storytelling art. I don't think there will be a prevailing art style anymore, and I think that's a good thing. Yeah. I really do. Those of us who are influenced by a prevailing style and learned from that's great, and we all have our favorite elements of our styles, but I can't wait to see what this new generation is going to do, and the generations following, with the opportunities here to tell stories never before seen. Of all of us here, Aaron's got what could arguably be called the most unorthodox style, and yet, compared internationally to all the styles out there, any style, as long as the story is told well, is valid and accepted. And here's the key to that. People have said to me, some in this room, some off camera, have said to me, it's just, I don't know, what's the point? It's like, I'll never be able to compete with this or that, or have that much sales, or these numbers, or whatever. And my response is usually somewhere like, you know what? You'll always have a market with consistently good work. You're going to always have a market that supports you, whether it supports you on the level of, Elon Musk, or whether it supports you on the level of paying your bills so you can keep doing it every day. Yeah. You got to ask yourself, does that really matter? Or does it matter that you're able to do the work for a living? And we're in the best position, I think, that in history to create work and build a markplace that supports us. What do you guys think? Barb, I'll let you go first on this. What do you think?
Well, I lost my mouse. I had to find it again.
Oh, glad you found it.
Yeah, see,
before the cat got it.
Yes.
Before the cat, yeah.
I love how you're holding it like a mouse. Too.
Yes. I like the fact that we have become such a small world that we can mix cultures and cultural influences, and stylistically, anything goes.
Yeah.
Throw it all into the melting pot and see what comes out.
Right.
And as you said, as long as it's a good story, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. Wide open field. Rob, thoughts, observations?
What I think is going to be a game changer is the new thing they're doing with AI.
Okay.
If somebody can where you can describe, where anybody can describe what they want and feed it into AI, and it'll pop out
some
a
wild
beautiful
stuff.
piece of work. That I think that's going to be a game changer.
Yeah, we are literally in the wild west of comics and animation.
Absolutely, yeah. I think that's going to be. Who knows where that's going to take us? Is it going to be important? Right now, we're already at the point where there are a lot of comic creators who don't even use a piece of paper anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I'm one of the dinosaurs still doing it on paper.
Yeah.
I've just recently given up.
Even I'm starting to do a little bit in digital world. So
I've just recently given up working on regular paper, and it's not because I don't like it. It's because I have to, because I have a slight tremor in my hand. Working digitally, I can set my smoothing control, and it eliminates that.
That may keep me drawing later. That may keep me drawing later as well. I don't have that problem yet, but you know, I've already got occasional aches and pains in my drawing hand that I wear this glove for.
Mine's called an essential tremor, and it's very minute, but it's enough that I can tell in my original artwork that it's there. So I've switched to digital, and in some ways it's very sorrowful for me because, like you said, there's an emphasis on original art, but in other ways I'm very happy because 10 years ago, 20 years ago, that would have been the end of my career. Now I've extended my career for another decade or so.
Oh,
know?
Yeah. And I'm hoping that as we go along, that'll help even more and more. And like I was talking about with the AI stuff, if once we get artists to accept that, and then they learn how to use it as another tool, that could just do some mind blowing stuff. I think
you wouldn't have to pay your stars anymore. You could just make them up.
Exactly right.
You want a young Robert Downey Jr.? Bing.
Yeah, bing, there he is. Don't have to reference it. Aaron, thoughts, observations
about the future of art?
Yeah, like do you see it like kind of as I was laying it out earlier? What differences?
I think I would like to. I've always been more interested in more unique styles and stuff.
Yeah.
I tend to find more of those unique styles at the public library. That's why I find a lot of the books that do a lot of weird stuff. Comic book stores, not as much, which I mean makes sense. Comic stores are going to put the stuff out there that's going to sell. The libraries there to lend you information. So in that, I do think comics have become more of a niche market. I never thought I would say that, but I think comics has been more of a niche market than it's ever been in its history now. And I think it literally is going down the trend of like books and print. You know, I don't like to read digitally, but online because sometimes it bothers my eyes. But I do think digital comics have taken away the one thing that made comics, like gave the comics a hook, is that's the collectability. I think now pirating comics or whatever, like, you know, when we were growing up, you know, we had to go find the issue. You couldn't just get it. Now you have pirated sites that they just read them, or they don't have to go search it.
Sure.
And I think the collectability has hurt comics. I think that's why they're moving more towards graphic novels. Like they're trying to join the book market more than the periodical market, because the magazine market is
selling.
All but dead.
That's what's selling.
Yeah.
That's what's selling.
You've got to make them in the books because the collectability of the periodicals is just not there anymore.
Right.
Yep.
Now, having said,
some people call them pamphlets. So,
right. But having said all of that, I think that gives you more reason to try new art styles and go, because what have you got to lose?
Yeah.
Right.
It's not like you're making comics that are selling thousands of millions. I'm not a big fan of people who go the lowest common denominator sometimes as comics to do Kickstarters or whatever. I do think the internet has brought out a little more of the, I don't want to say pulp, but a little more of the sleaze in comics that I kind of always knew was there. I mean, it was always sold in the back of the store or whatever.
Sure.
But Kickstarter has definitely brought out that, you know, nudity sells. And I think it's like not even the art form. And now it just overshadows everything. I mean, this is one of my, like, I'd like to do a Kickstarter, but I don't have tons of high hopes for it because my comic doesn't have all that stuff. I mean, the difference between non-nude books and nude books, the numbers are just astronomical.
Oh, yeah.
So I think the internet has brought that out a little more, but because of that, there's no reason not to do crazy, weird stuff, especially with this so easy doing digital and so easy doing this stuff. You don't have to do paper. You can do anything on the computer. So go for it. I mean, I would love to see somebody mix photographs with art. I actually did that a little bit in Goblins. The stars in the back of my book.
Jack Kirby did that in the 60s.
Yeah, I used Hubble telescope.
He did collages. And now you can do it. Now you can do it in Photoshop. In fact, I do it in some of my work. Is I'll take something and zap the contrast way so that it's very stark, so it's very inky looking. So but
the one thing I think oh, go ahead. I think the one thing that'll keep comics around for a long time as an art form is just when somebody has an idea that's a visual idea. Comic books are the easiest go-to medium. It doesn't cost much to make a comic except time. Movies are expensive. If you want to make a movie, that takes a lot of effort and time. You want, write a book. So if you want to add visuals to your storytelling, comics still are the easiest entry point in there. But strange enough, because of that, and I don't know, I've never understood why people always see movies as the end game of a property. I mean, maybe, do you know what I'm saying? Like
the money.
It's the money. I guess it's
that's
also
where the money is. It's where the money is.
Yeah.
And so, like, if it's, but it's funny because if people, like, I'll use the Hellboy movies. The Hellboy movies are okay, but a lot of people would like, well, they kind of ruined it, or they ruined the X-Men, they ruined the other properties, almost like. If the movie they make based on a property sucks or they don't like it, it like erases the property. I never got that. It's like, it's a movie, just ignore it.
In terms of, I would say a lot of us have fallen into that idea, or we did when we were younger, that
I think so.
The ultimate payoff was
you've really made it if your property has been made into it.
Sure.
And that's, I'm not going to be a hypocrite enough to say that if not Hollywood came knocking at my door, I wouldn't.
Oh, sure.
I wouldn't put Divinity on the market. I would.
I'll take.
Of course.
I take the money and run all the way to the bank.
You bet.
The difference is I don't think you measure the value to you of your property based on whether Hollywood likes it or not. Because really the value is going to be whatever you place the value on. Is it sales numbers? Is it the story itself? If it's something personal, which I know it is to you, the value is in that. And it's very, there's an old saying that comparison is the enemy of joy. It's very true. But, I mean, obviously we want to make money, but it's a matter of how much money do you need to keep the story going? As an artist, that's always been, my measure is how much money do I need to make to do this for a living? I don't need, 2 houses and 3 cars and a boat and a house in the Hamptons or whatever. Some people want to do that. Great. That's good for them, whatever. But point being that it's a dangerous road to measure your success only by numbers.
Oh, yes, absolutely. You go to
I measure my success in the fans' reaction.
That's awesome. I love that too. That's not my entire measure, but I love seeing that. I have come back to a con to make sure that I delivered a piece that was requested just recently at the con in Daytona. I had moved on. We were still in DeLand, and I got a text that a fan was very disappointed, and he'd driven up from far away to meet me in person and get me to sign the work. And was I still in town? I was like, yeah, I'm still here. I'll be there in a second. And it was worth it to me. It was a selfish thing too, because it was worth it to me just to see the look on the guy's face when I signed the work.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's the most, I think probably the best thing I got out of my work so far is one of my kids' books was sold to somebody online, and his kid liked my character so much that the little boy dresses as my character for Halloween.
Wow.
For school. Like, see that
awesome.
that to me,
cosplay.
You've made it.
and at such a young age. I mean, I was like, wow, that's really cool.
One of my most recent really good feeling type incidences was I sold a Divinity #1 to somebody at a show. It was an all-day show, and they ended up over lunchtime going out and sitting in the lobby, and they read #1, and they came back and said, I have to get the next one. Because first #1 was so good, I got to find out what happens next.
Yeah, very good. You got it.
Yep, that's what I want to hear.
Got him.
But I do think experimentation is. I mean, even in my goblins is all done in pencil. There's no ink in that.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot. I mean, that wouldn't be possible without digital. I think experimentation is rife right now. Even though I think if you go in again, it's like comics would break your heart, like Hollywood would break your heart, right?
Oh yeah.
Going it for you, but I do see comics as ripe with innovation and experimentation, and I think you could almost converge it a little bit on fine arts if you wanted to a little, which has been discussed in many books or whatever about mixing fine arts with comics. But I do feel that, just have fun. I mean, I think, if you're going into this, you're not going to sell a lot. Strangely enough, now why does manga sell so much? I know there's a lot of there, but I think it's also the anime. And I would be curious if you took the anime out, would manga sell as much? It may. I have no idea.
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Like,
hey, a subject for a future show.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Everything is content.
In that one, Aaron's going to do all the research.
I'm going to do all the research.
I did all the research for all these cover ones. Yeah.
I'd love to do that discussion. Why does anime continue to sell so strongly? I think a lot of it is consistency and volume of the work. There's so much of it out there, and it does appeal to a soap opera mentality and to its niche markets and its genre, and a lot of it's just really good and a lot of it isn't, but we have that over here too,
But of course the universal question of all of that is, why does anime translate into manga sales and superhero movies don't translate into comic book sales?
That's another good question.
That's the universal question. Why?
You're going to lead the talk that night.
That's
right. I literally think it's just the art style. That when you see the anime, it's verbatim the manga, and a lot of the anime doesn't finish. So they'll get to the end of the anime and be like, "I want to know what happens next." You got to read the manga to finish the story. I don't know if that's done on purpose or not caught up, but it's almost like the anime is kind of like, watch this, and like, well, it doesn't end. What's it? Got to read the book. And the Marvel movies.
That's a good point. There is no tie-in with the comics and the movies.
No.
Really?
No.
Yeah.
But the manga is almost, a lot of the anime is verbatim the manga and vice versa. Really? So, I mean, people would do that. And when you show anime on public television, like Toonami, you got kids watching after, and then they see the comic on the stand. That's Dragon Ball Z. I know that. But you see Captain America, and also there's been many people. Manga, I think the one thing that they've really done well, and I've had another gentleman online talk about this, is they made the entry so easy. In other words, when you go into a manga, it says volume 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It doesn't say Captain America Civil War, Captain America Long Journey Home, Captain America. Like, you don't know where to start. American comics have made it completely convoluted and confusing. And manga's like, no, it's like 1, 2, 3. Kids get that. People get that.
You know what else? Adaptations, Aaron, in terms of when it goes from comics to movies.
Yeah.
It's the craziest thing. We've said it here before many times. All of a sudden, all the Hollywood people are experts on comic books.
I know, isn't that hilarious?
And they know how to best adapt it. Even though these people have been doing comics their whole life, they know the character inside out. Oh, don't worry. We know how to make this into a successful movie. And that always amazes me. It's like, really? You're an expert on comics? Okay.
I will give props to Tom Hanks on this, because I remember he did The Road to Perdition, which is based on my comic. They asked him if he read the comic. He's like, no, I never got in the comics. I don't read that stuff.
Yeah,
he was just
by a friend
honest.
of mine.
He was
straight
just
up.
honest.
Straight up.
He's like, I did it for the money. I was like, okay, I can respect that. Like it's just not his thing. But he did the movie anyways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Barb? You were going to say something.
That was written by a friend of mine from Muscatine, Iowa.
Oh,
yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we'll save that conversation, Aaron. I'd love to have that at some point.
It's an interesting conversation because I've watched videos and stuff on it, and there seems to be some sort of secret sauce manga has that Americans haven't figured out. I don't know, something.
It may have something. Now, I'm throwing this out there. Loyalty and fealty to the original material may have something to do with it, because I know that, and we all really love it when we read a character and it's conceived on the screen as close to the written form as possible. And there's something, I think that's part of the answer with manga. I don't think they have the same arrogance of movie production over there. They just look at it and go, hey, it was successful on paper like this, so let's just put that paper on the screen.
The Japanese step very much verbatim. Even in the live action movies, they stick as close to the source material as possible. Americans like to change things because we want to innovate.
Well, it's also
great.
We want to calculate. The producers want to calculate. Like, well, now that's not going to really translate into a movie that well. Really? Well, why not? Which is why I'm really looking forward to how Spawn is going to possibly translate into a live action movie, because to me, something like Spawn, you almost have to do that in animation to make it work.
It wouldn't have worked 10 or 15, 20 years ago, but now in this age of CGI, almost anything works.
I think it could work now.
That old Spawn movie definitely needs some touching up.
It needs a little help.
I think the difference is Hollywood over wherever the anime is produced, because you've got this whole mentality in Hollywood of the guy, either the guy with the money or the director or somebody has to come in and stick his finger in it and say, I made it great.
Right.
It's a game of egos.
Yeah, and I've heard that directors, I think it was Roland, talked about like some directors almost will change things because if they don't get credit or something. There's like something to do with that, so that's almost like a priority. They might change it.
It's money and ego. Yep. That's what it comes down to. But whereas if the Japanese apparently have this idea, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Whereas here it's just the opposite. It's broke, let's fix it. It's not a movie. It's not a movie, so let's make it a movie. We'll fix it so that it works as a movie. It works. It's storytelling, folks.
It's storytelling.
Tell the freaking story.
Yeah, that's you're right. It's already storytelling. It's just literally almost storyboarding on paper. So why can't you do it verbatim?
Yeah,
it's already done.
It's already done.
Yeah.
All the hard work is done. Yeah.
They actually proved that with Sin City, the original Sin City. They just verbatim copied it, and it worked.
Yeah.
Duh.
Well, look at
because it worked the first time.
Look at Netflix's Sandman. Okay. Another almost, panel by panel grabbed and put on the screen. Very minor changes, and most of that's because the book was made in the 80s or 90s, and now we're actually seeing in the 2020s. So there's got to be some changes made to talk to that. But Sandman is just incredible.
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm about halfway through it. It is awesome.
Really? Okay.
I've only seen about 3 or 4 episodes.
I'm loving
so far. I'm treating it like sipping whiskey, one little sip at a time. I don't binge. I sip the whiskey.
I do that too. I don't binge. I just watch. It takes me forever to get through a series. That's why people told me about new TV series or whatever. I'm like, have you seen it yet? I'm like 2 years behind, dude.
Yeah.
It took me years to watch X-Files after it finally came out. So,
well, speaking of binging, if any of you guys enjoyed the Karate Kid movies as a kid, the Cobra Kai series that they're doing was really fun, and season 5, highly recommend it.
I got to season 3 and I never finished watching it.
4 and 5 really takes a lot of material from Karate Kid 3 and brings everything together. And dudes, the showdown is awesome. I really enjoyed it. It was one of those guilty pleasure of like, it's from my childhood and I love this movie and oh my gosh, they brought everybody back. You know, it's like that. So.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. I have some other family members that like it. And so I might jump in. I'd have to start over again. It's been a while. I finished season 3 like a year or two ago. So, but I don't mind rewatching. It was a fun.
I haven't been watching it myself, but
you pick it up. You pick it up really, really fast.
Yeah.
Before we go again, our thoughts go out to our Florida peeps. Hang in there, you guys.
Yeah.
Be good.
Yeah.
Stay safe.
Yep.
And you know, as we always like to close our show, we always like to say,
Make mine Silverline.
Make mine
Silverline.
Silverline.
Hi, my name is Sergio Cariello, and make mine Silverline.